Welcome to the Hooligan Nation podcast. We are back this week with an all-new bonus segment. The idea for this segment was sent in by KJ Nodwell, so thank you, KJ. Today, we're going to talk about the Peter Criss impersonator incident from 1991. My little Rocco, do you remember this?
I do. Before I watched it again, I remember when it came out, and I remember seeing this guy. And from what I remember, like visually, without makeup, it made you think that it was actually him. When you first look at it, before you get all the details and background of the Donahue episode, I thought it was him. And then obviously you watch the episode, you find out differently. But I believed the story when I heard it, because I know he had drug problems and all that stuff. So when I first heard about it coming out, I thought it was real.
In 1991, Star Magazine ran an article that Peter Criss was broke and homeless and in the throes of alcoholism in the Los Angeles area of California. We couldn't find the original Star Magazine article, probably because Peter sued and won a settlement, but I did find an article from i95rock.com written in 2019 explaining the story. So I will read said story.
Sounds good.
So everybody should sit Indian style around their television because I'm going to tell you a story. This was written by Eric Senich on February 16th, 2019. Call it revisionist history. In 1991, an episode of the Phil Donahue Show aired, which remains one of the most bizarre and surreal moments in rock history. Unfortunately for Peter Criss, it was all at his expense. Sometime in the late 80s, an urban legend began. It was a story that alleged Criss, the original drummer of KISS, was now a homeless alcoholic living on the streets of Santa Monica, California. In January of 1991, Star Magazine ran an article with the headline, "KISS Star Hits the Skids," claiming Criss had become a homeless alcoholic, panhandling for nickels and sleeping on the ground of the men's room at the Santa Monica Pier. To solidify this sad story of a rich and famous rock star gone broke were quotes from Criss himself, or so we thought. Instead of the former rock star, the man who had been photographed and interviewed by the tabloid was actually a guy by the name of Christopher Dickinson. Dickinson was a homeless Evanston, Illinois native who had been passing himself off as Peter Criss for years. It just got to be well known around Santa Monica that that's who I was, Dickinson later told People magazine. I had gotten my real ID stolen. Why I said it, I don't really know. I was very confused, very mixed up from alcohol. Enter Phil Donahue and Tom Arnold. Yes, Tom Arnold. In February 1991, Donahue was not only able to get Dickinson on the show to confess to the well-publicized lie, but Criss himself, as if watching Criss confronting his imposter in front of a live studio audience wasn't compelling enough. There were some other interesting guests. A wannabe actress, Cheryl Ann Thompson, who claimed to have had an affair with Criss, her mother, and via satellite, Tom Arnold. Both Thompson and Arnold appeared on the show to tell their stories of how they offered to help the homeless Criss, only to find he wasn't the real Peter Criss. After this episode aired, Criss filed a lawsuit against Star Magazine and settled for an undisclosed amount in 1993, and now is happily retired, by all accounts, not homeless. Arnold went on to be a very successful career in Hollywood, while Dickinson disappeared into obscurity soon after, and his whereabouts remains a mystery. As for wannabe actress Cheryl Ann Thompson, she's probably still trying to become an actress, but my guess is still not a very good one. Ouch. Ouch. After this Star Magazine article, Somehow, it's not really explained well, but somehow Tom Arnold, who's married to Roseanne Barr at the time, decides that he's going to go down to the Santa Monica Pier. And I think he said he spent like 4 hours looking for this Peter Criss. Never found him. Somehow he gets hooked up on the phone with this Cheryl Ann Thompson, who tells him that she's got Peter and she's flying him, I believe, to Boston. She's from Jersey, but she had relocated to Boston. So Tom Arnold tells this woman, "Hey, are you sure it's Peter Criss?" "I'm absolutely sure." Blah 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 blah. Guy has plane issues, gets drunk on the plane, gets kicked off the plane. Anyway, you know. And when he finally shows up, she figures out it's not the real Peter Criss. So she does what every red blooded American would do. She invites him to come stay at her house, and she kind of lets him move in.
Knowing that he's not Peter Criss, too.
Correct. So, anyway, so they all end up on this Donahue show, and we're going to go into a little bit, but it's all over YouTube. So, if you're interested in watching the episode of Donahue show, the full episode is still on YouTube. But first and foremost, before we even get into any of this any further, this is an episode of Jerry Springer before the Jerry Springer show. Jerry had to be sitting at home watching this and thinking, hey, I have a great idea.
He got an epiphany.
Oh, had to be. I mean, this was textbook Jerry Springer show. Next, and probably the most important part of this whole thing, is Peter's dye job did not age well.
I was wondering if you're going to bring that up.
Holy shit, that's bad hair.
Yeah.
And you know it's got to be bad hair when a bald guy is talking about someone else having bad hair. But Tom Arnold's on the show. This woman, whatever her name is, Christopher Dickinson, who was the impersonator, was on the show. Debra Jensen, who was Peter's wife at the time, was on the show. Lydia Criss, Peter's ex-wife, called into the show. And George Sewitt, who at one time was Peter's manager, and at one time, I think he was the stage manager for KISS, was also on the show. And I gotta I do have to give Peter credit. He makes it very clear right off the bat. He has no issue with this guy, Christopher Dickinson. They
Yeah,
offered the guy.
the guy looked nervous. So Peter kind of calmed him down, right, relaxed him right away.
So Star Magazine offered him and paid him $500 cash and gave him 3 nights in a hotel, and he took it. So Peter didn't really blame him. Peter came out in the Donahue episode and said that he blamed Star Magazine. And pretty much, I don't know, maybe I got this wrong. Maybe you'll have a different opinion, but the crowd pretty much left that guy alone. It was
Yeah,
it was the woman.
the girl, they were
Oh,
definitely, she
they
definitely
went
did. They definitely were going after her.
they went after her, and Peter very much denies it. And then his wife, Debra Jensen, gets up there and speaks for him and says something really, really unbelievable, which is something like that for the past 13 years, she has never let him out of her sight.
Yeah, she was
Nah,
pregnant at the time too, or
yeah,
something like that. Yeah,
mm-mm. A little too much storytelling for me.
yeah. And Peter, like the other thing to note about it too is number one, you see Peter's Italian come out because he definitely was pissed. Like basically putting that girl in her place. Like, you don't know me. You just got your Andy Warhol 5 minutes of fame.
Lydia Criss calls in and completely backs Peter's story. Good on her. I'm not sure how she could back his story, but hey, loyalty is loyalty, I guess. And I don't know that we really got a conclusion to anything at all in the 40 or 43 minutes of that episode. It was literally an episode of Jerry Springer.
Yeah, the one thing though that I definitely take that seemed pretty genuine to me is that Peter was really in a devastated frame of mind from his mother passing and getting phone calls that they were worried that he was destitute and on the street at the same time as his mom. It definitely seemed like it took an emotional toll. That definitely seemed genuine. There was a lot of goofy stuff that was on there that definitely was like a Jerry Springer type thing. But he was definitely pissed, and he was definitely it was definitely an emotional time for him with the loss of his mom. I think that's what made it even more magnified.
Yeah, and he talks about that in the episode that family members are calling his father's house when he was there, and they're asking the father, how's Peter? I heard he was homeless. And Peter had no clue what was going on, which kind of shows you how actually withdrawn from public life Peter was at the time.
Right.
That's one of the Peter talents that nobody ever brings up.
Mm.
Peter is pretty good from withdrawing from public life. He's done it multiple times. And when he's ready to be a public figure, he comes out and he's a public figure. And when he's done with it, he just goes back into some hole. And I don't know whether people continue to try to get him out of the hole or they just leave him alone. Why do I not see Paul, Gene, or Ace ever doing
They
that?
need attention too much.
Yeah, it's weird how that is. Like Peter doesn't seem to need that kind of attention until he feels like he needs it. And
Right. I
then,
mean, even early on, right? Even early on, he kind of did the same thing when he first broke up with the band. He was kind of like,
well,
poof.
that's what I'm talking about. Like he just disappears off the face of the earth. And then he comes back on his own terms when he wants to and puts himself on the Donahue show. Look, you can say whatever you want about Peter. I don't think he's an idiot. Like he knew that that episode was going to be a shit show. And it came across as a shit show. I mean, he looked good in it. He looked like the victim, which
Oh
he
yeah,
was the victim.
yeah,
But I'm watching this, and I saw it when I was a kid. It was big news in 1991 because everybody, like you said earlier, everybody believed that it was true.
yeah.
It wasn't that wild.
I think I remember. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but I remember my first reaction being like, "How the hell could freaking Paul and Gene allow that to happen?" I think my first take was he's destitute and on the street, and Gene and Paul are like not even trying to like reach out.
You
Whether that, I
know,
mean, that's not even really a good take because how do I even know they still have a contact with him? But my first reaction was there's too many people that he's been connected to that are going to let him just fall apart like that.
there's a story out. Look, Gene does too many interviews for me to remember
Mm.
exactly like what this was, but I heard a story in an interview, I don't know when it was, about someone calling Gene up, and I believe it was an ex-girlfriend, and I can't figure out whether it was Diana Ross or Cher, but I think it was one of the two of them. Called Gene up and bitched Gene out. Like you should be doing something. This isn't right. And Jean's response to her was, I just got off the phone with Peter. He's not homeless. He's not broke. Like, it's a made up story. And at one point in the Donahue show, Donahue kind of trips up Tom Arnold because Tom Arnold jumps on, and Tom Arnold he wasn't a celebrity at the time.
He was just known, but yeah,
1991,
he wasn't a big star at that point.
he had just married a celebrity.
Right.
But Tom Arnold's talking about how Star Magazine shouldn't be allowed to do this, which I completely agree with. And this and that. And then Donahue asked the question, well, didn't you fall for it? Why did you get involved in it? and then there's kind of a silence and a stupid, goofy look on Tom Arnold's face, and he never does really give any kind of answer to it.
The last thing I'll say is, for the record, like, Peter did make a comment about basically saying that that would never be that would never happen to him. He has too much family support, too many friends. Like, the things that you first reaction is, how could friends and family let that happen? That was pretty much his response back, saying, there's no way my friends and family would ever allow me to be that down and in the gutter. Right? He makes reference to his family and strong roots and things like that, that they would pick him up if he had fallen.
Yeah, and you know what? I guess with Lydia Criss calling into the show, and it very much looked like that wasn't planned. At least Peter wasn't in the planning, because he did look shocked, and he did say something to Donahue like, that is Lydia, or something like that. So I don't think it was a planned thing. Um at least that Peter was in on. That kind of shows you that people were in Peter's corner. I mean, he opens up the show, Peter does, by making mention of the fact that Lydia took a lot of money from him.
Mm.
And then she calls up the show and blindly sticks up for him. And I thought it was kind of blindly, other than she makes mention that she went to his mother's funeral, but she goes really far with the defending him. And I don't want to come across as a cat hater, because I'm definitely not, and I definitely think he was 100% the victim in this. My only question was the woman. She was cute,
Oh yeah, no, she was definitely cute.
and I think she said it was 8 years prior to 1991, so that makes it like 1984.
If I'm being honest, I'm not totally dismissing that he didn't shag with her. I'm not dismissing that.
That's the only part. That's the only part. And look, in Peter's defense, he's on national TV. His wife's in like the first row. Like, dude isn't gonna look at her and be like, ah, yeah, yeah, you were notch number
Right.
476. That's not gonna happen, but it's the only part of it where
Yeah. Do I think
Peter.
that, like, she makes reference to, it's like a 5 month thing? Do I think it was a 5 month thing? No. Do I think that Peter, added to his notch on his belt? Yes, I do. That being said, too, like, another aspect of this that makes me think, like, regardless of where Peter's status was for Kiss, he's the guy who created Beth. He's the Beth guy, and his staying power, even to this day, there's always going to be people always going to be drawn to Peter Criss if he does anything. He's still a big character, in my opinion.
Well, I'm sure he definitely was at at the time. I don't know how big of a character.
I'm saying from the Kiss Army overall.
Oh,
Yeah,
from the Kiss Army, he's 100%, one of four legends, and then it tapers off from there. But
right.
I think it was bigger than that, even in 1991. There was, we talk about Mystique a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you're a card carrying member of the Kiss Army in the 80s into the 90s, you should have known what Peter Criss looked like without makeup, because he did come out with an album with his face on the album cover. If you are not a card carrying member of the Kiss Army, you may not have a clue. It's pre-internet, it's pre-social media, it's pre all of that. So I think because of that, it was a pretty big thing, and
Well, and to add to what, and to add
love
what, good.
I would love to go back and try to find out the ratings
Mm.
for that show. Probably one of the funniest parts of the episode. He makes mention that he's currently working on his autobiography. Boy, if he was working on his autobiography, he worked on that for a long, long time. Because his autobiography didn't come out till the the 2000s, but I think it was at least 2007. So that's 16 years for an autobiography.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a long time.
yeah, that's a lot of work. Anyway, one last time, if anybody's interested in seeing the episode of Donahue, it's all over YouTube. For those of you that don't even know who the hell Phil Donahue is, he was a big
Talk show.
midday talk show host for forever, pretty much. It was an interesting episode.
Yeah, he was probably
So
Oprah before Oprah, right?
he was Oprah before Oprah, actually. That's pretty good. It's a pretty good analogy there. I want to specifically and specially thank KJ Nodwell for sending me the
Thank you.
email. As soon as I read the email, crickety old light bulb went off on the top of my head, and I said, this is at least a good segment because it is filled with what KISS was made of: a drama, conflict, the whole 9 yards, all rolled up into one tight, nice bow with a segment. It's got Playboy Playmates in it. It's got comedy and Tom Arnold in it. It's got everything that anybody would want to watch for
Yeah,
entertainment.
yeah. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth a watch because it's definitely entertaining.
Be prepared for a Jerry Springer episode before Jerry Springer. And I did look this up. Jerry Springer's show did not start till September of 91, which makes me think more and more that Jerry was sitting there watching TV and was like, I'm going to watch Donahue today. My God. So thank you, KJ Nodwell. We appreciate it. I did send her an email back telling her that we were going to hire her to be part of our research and development team. So, KJ, since we used your idea, your check is in the mail. I just want you to know that we pay in Skittles and jelly beans. If you're listening to us on any of the podcast platforms, please leave us a review. And if you just found us, check out our past episodes. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel and you like this episode, please consider hitting the like button, just like him, and leaving us a comment. Hit that subscribe button, just like him, so you don't miss any future episodes, and check out these episodes right up here somewhere. As always, if you made it this far, thank you for supporting us. If it's too loud, you're too old. Peace out, Hooligan Nation.